Imagine walking into, like, a fluorescent-lit government room. Right. You're riding the highest adrenaline rush of your entire 16 years of life.
Oh, yeah, the big day.
Exactly. And then an official immediately asks you to make a legally binding decision about your own death.
It sounds wild when you put it like that, but yeah, that is exactly what happens at the Nebraska DMV.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking you, the listener, straight into the labyrinth of the Nebraska Driver Licensing and State ID Requirements Guide.
Right, because getting a license, it's always framed as this universal ticket to freedom.
But the manual itself reads less like a brochure for the open highway and more like, I don't know, a dense contract for behavioral engineering.
It really is. I mean, the manual is a meticulously crafted system of control. People look at the rules for youth drivers and just see endless bureaucratic red tape.
Yeah, they just see roadblocks.
Exactly. But the reality is that the state is using this system to, gradually introduce risk, liability, and just immense civic responsibility to individuals whose brains are still fundamentally developing.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission today is to pull out the essential, non-negotiable requirements for youth drivers from this guide.
Which is so needed.
Right. Whether you are a teenager gearing up for the big test or, a parent trying to navigate the system without losing your mind, understanding these rules is going to save you multiple trips.
Oh, absolutely. It's vital.
Because reading through these sources, the whole process actually mirrors a complex video game.
Huh, a video game. I like that.
Yeah, you can't just walk up to the boss, the driving examiner, and ask for a license.
Right, you have to level up first.
Exactly. You have to navigate level gating, accumulate experience points over years, and avoid taking damage to your driving record.
And before you even enter the arena, you face the ultimate administrative scavenger hunt.
The paperwork.
Yes.
Yeah.
The identity verification phase is really the foundational hurdle here.
Right. Before any rubber meets the road, we have to talk about the paper.
The state of Nebraska requires absolute proof of U.S. citizenship or lawful status, verified identity, and a principal address.
And they are incredibly strict about it.
Extremely. They demand original documents with raised seals or stamps. The manual explicitly bans photocopies, faxes, or anything stamped with, not to be used for proof of identification.
Okay, I have to push back here on behalf of every frustrated parent out there digging through a filing cabinet.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
Right. What if my teen brings a hospital birth certificate? The official-looking one with the cute little ink footprints on it.
No, the footprint one, yeah.
The hospital issued it. It has the exact time of birth, the doctor's signature. I mean, why on earth wouldn't the state accept that?
Well, see, the DMV is acting as the primary identity verification checkpoint for both the state and, crucially, the downstream federal government.
Oh, so it's bigger than just driving.
Much bigger. Hospital-issued certificates are completely decentralized. They are essentially medical souvenirs.
Medical souvenirs? Wow.
Yeah, because they do not feed into a secure, state-managed database that tracks vital statistics.
Oh, that makes sense.
Think about what a driver's license unlocks in modern society, right? You use it to board airplanes, secure federal student loans.
Open bank accounts.
Exactly, and verify employment eligibility. If the DMV accepts a lower-tier document, like a hospital print, they introduce a massive vulnerability into that entire downstream security chain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they are establishing definitively who you are in the eyes of the law, which is why only a certified certificate issued by a state government office is going to suffice.
So they aren't just giving you permission to drive, they are basically anchoring your legal identity.
Precisely.
That makes this strictness understandable, I guess. But then we hit the next item on this paperwork scavenger hunt, proving your principal address in Nebraska.
Ah, yes, the address verification.
The manual dictates you need 2 documents from different sources to prove where you sleep at night.
Right, 2 distinct sources.
And they list things like bank statements, pay stubs, mortgage leases, and utility bills from the last 90 days.
Which is standard for adults.
But most 15-year-olds do not have a mortgage or a water bill in their name. I mean, are they supposed to just bring in a report card?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the state balances that strict federal compliance with the practical reality of youth applicants.
They must have a workaround.
They do. The manual provides a specific, crucial loophole for youth drivers under 21.
Okay, what is it?
If a teenager cannot provide two independent proofs of principal address in their own name, the DMV will actually accept their parents' or legal guardian's principal address documents.
Oh, so the parent acts as like an address sponsor.
Exactly. The parent just vouches for them.
That prevents the entire system from gridlocking for sure. But the guide also throws in a major caveat, warning that document approval might not happen on the same day.
Right. It explicitly states that documents are subject to departmental review.
It seems like they are actively trying to build friction into the process.
Well, the friction is a feature. It's not a bug.
Really? How so?
By warning applicants that an additional visit might be required. If names don't match up perfectly or documents seem altered, they are forcing meticulous preparation.
So they want you to be paranoid.
Kind of, yeah. They are weeding out casual, unprepared applicants before they even take a number.
So the takeaway for you listening, do the scavenger hunt early, check the raised seals, leave the footprint certificate at home, and bring your own utility bills to vouch for your team.
That will save you so much time.
Right. Now, let's assume the state has locked down exactly who you are. We move from the administrative reality of proving you exist to the physical proof of competence.
The actual driving part.
Yeah. Nebraska doesn't just hand you the keys at 16. They use a highly specific FAVE system of stepping stones.
Because trial by fire is a terrible policy when you're operating a multi-ton machine at 60 miles an hour.
Very true.
The state breaks the driving experience down into, isolated sandboxes, beginning with the school permit.
The parameters for this permit are wildly specific.
Very precise math.
Yeah, you can get it as early as 14 years and 2 months old, but you cannot be older than 16 years and 3 months.
Right.
And you have to have held a learner's permit for 2 months and complete a DMV-approved safety course.
Yes. And from there, you move up to the provisional operator's permit, or POP.
The POP. Right.
You can apply within 60 days of your 16th birthday, provided you've held the school or learner's permit for at least 6 months.
This isn't just math, though. It's an intentional administrative barrier designed to weed out the unprepared. I mean, it requires long-term calendar planning from the family.
It absolutely does. The Graduated Driver Licensing, or GDL system, is built on decades of traffic safety data.
So it actually works.
Yes. Putting a 14-year-old in a car just to drive to school allows them to master fundamental vehicle control on a highly predictable, repetitive route.
Like just driving the same roads over and over.
Yeah, exactly. The calendar requirements you mentioned, holding permits for specific blocks of months, that ensures that the youth driver experiences different weather conditions, traffic patterns, and daylight variables while still under severe restrictions.
Then we get to the standard license, the Class O operator's license.
The big one.
You must be at least 17. You have to have held the POP for a minimum of 12 months. And here is the massive catch.
The point system.
Yep. You must not have accumulated 3 or more points on your driving record in the previous 12 months.
This is such a critical detail.
So what does this all mean for the eager teenager? How easy is it to actually hit 3 points and just, derail the entire timeline?
It takes remarkably little to accumulate 3 points, which is why this rule is honestly so brilliant.
Really? Just 3 points?
Depending on the exact speed, a single ticket for going 10 to 15 miles over the speed limit, or failing to yield, or a careless driving citation, any of those can instantly drop 3 points on a record.
Just one mistake.
Just one. And if a youth driver hits that threshold while on their provisional operator's permit, their progress toward a full, unrestricted Class O license completely halts.
Wow.
Yeah, they lose all their momentum.
You cannot just pass the written test and then drive like a maniac. One mistake, one heavy foot on the gas pedal, and the state pauses your progression.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it shows that the state values proven, consistent, safe behavior over merely passing a one-time examination.
That makes total sense.
Right, because a teenager might be able to, white-knuckle their way through a 15-minute drive with a DMV examiner exhibiting perfect behavior.
Right, and anyone can fake it for 15 minutes.
Exactly. But can they make good conservative decisions consistently over a 12-month period when their friends are in the car?
That's the real test.
The point system demands an extended track record of maturity.
So you've survived the waiting game, you've done the math, and you've avoided the point track.
Time for the boss fight.
Exactly. Now, you are ready for the testing gauntlet. The manual outlines the vision test, the written test, and the drive test.
Standard stuff.
Right. The vision test is straightforward. If you need glasses to pass, Your license will indicate they must be worn while driving. But the drive test,
Oh, this is where it gets interesting.
the manual has some highly specific stipulations about the actual vehicle you have to bring.
Yes, because the drive test isn't solely a practical examination of the driver's skills, it is simultaneously an inspection of the equipment.
Wait, they inspect the car?
Absolutely. The DMV does not provide the car. You must furnish your own vehicle, and it must be representative of the type of license you're applying for.
Okay, makes sense.
It requires functioning brake lights, a working speedometer, and this is key doors that actually open.
I would hope so. Then it gets into historical specifics regarding seatbelts.
Right, the model year rules.
Yeah, if the car is model year 1964 or later, it needs a working, clean passenger seatbelt for the examiner. If it's 1973 or later, both the driver and the passenger need them.
Very specific cutoffs.
I understand the mechanics of safety, obviously, but then I read this one isolated line in the manual. Interior must be clean.
Ah, yes, the cleanliness clause.
But wait, if the car is mechanically safe and the seatbelts function, why should a messy back seat disqualify a driver?
It sounds petty, right?
It really does.
Yeah.
Isn't the state massively overstepping by policing the cleanliness of a teenager's private vehicle?
Well, you are looking at it purely from the driver's perspective.
Okay, how else should I look at it?
Turn the lens around and look at the DMV examiner. That examiner is a state employee who has to sit in that passenger seat for dozens of tests every single day.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. A clean car with functioning, accessible seatbelts isn't some aesthetic judgment on a teenager's lifestyle. It is quite literally an occupational health and safety requirement for the licensing staff.
Workplace safety.
Exactly. The state cannot ask its employees to wedge themselves between, gym bags, rotting fast food wrappers, and a faulty 1970s seatbelt mechanism just to evaluate a parallel park.
That fundamentally shifts the context. It isn't a room inspection. It's providing a safe workspace for a state worker.
Precisely. So clean your car.
Good advice. So clean the interior of your car before you go. But what happens if the drive itself goes wrong?
It happens all the time.
Say the teenager clips a tone or fails to yield. The manual outlines a consequence that I think is a massive aha moment for any family listening.
You are referring to the 3-strike rule.
Yes.
It is one of the most severe penalties in the entire licensing process.
If you fail 3 successive drive tests for a Class O license, you are locked out. You face an absolute penalty box.
You're just done.
You cannot just come back the next morning or even the next week and try again.
No, the state implements this to prevent what we call testing by trial and error.
Just hoping for an easy route.
Exactly. You cannot brute force a driving test by showing up repeatedly hoping to get a lenient examiner. If an applicant fails 3 times, the data suggests a fundamental lack of vehicle control or a severe misunderstanding of right-of-way rules.
So what happens to them?
They cannot reapply until they do one of 2 things. Show proof of completing a DMV-approved driver training course, or hold their learner's permit for at least another 90 days.
90 days.
Yep. Furthermore, a failed test can never be retaken on the same day, regardless of your strike count.
A mandated 90-day timeout. This is vital for families to grasp because it means cramming will not work.
Not at all.
You can't just throw your teenager at the DMV over and over. A 90-day wait forces the driver to practice in entirely new seasonal weather conditions.
That's a great point.
If they fail in the summer, they are suddenly testing in the autumn rain. It's a brilliant, unforgiving circuit breaker.
It acts as an intervention. The state steps in and basically dictates that you need more time to mature your skills or you need professional instruction before you are allowed back onto the testing course.
Okay, let's fast forward. The teenager prepares properly. The interior is spotless. The parallel parking is flawless. The examiner signs off.
They did it.
They have beaten the video game. Now we get to the actual issuance of the plastic card. Earning the license isn't just the end of this bureaucratic scavenger hunt. It is the blunt beginning of adult responsibilities.
It really is.
Because right there, at the counter, the DMV drops a massive, life-altering decision onto the applicant.
The organ and tissue donation declaration.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. The manual notes that anyone 16 and over can declare to be an organ or tissue donor.
And if they elect to do so, a heart symbol is printed right on the front of the license.
Think about the psychological weight of that moment. You have a 16-year-old whose brain is entirely focused on the immediate future, driving to a friend's house, picking up a date, gaining independence.
Right, they're just excited.
And suddenly, the clerk behind the counter forces them to confront their own mortality and make a profound medical directive.
It is an incredibly heavy cognitive pivot. However, it is facilitated by a powerful legal framework called Nebraska first-person legislation.
First-person legislation, what does that mean in practice?
Historically, organ donation often fell to the next of kin to decide during moments of profound grief. The intent of first-person legislation is to fundamentally shift that power to the individual.
So they get to choose for themselves.
Exactly. It allows a person to make the binding decision regarding organ donation for themselves. Crucially, it dictates that this decision cannot be rescinded or overridden by anyone else after the person's death.
Wow.
It guarantees that the wishes of the deceased are honored above all family objections.
But they are 16. Are we really saying that a 16-year-old who legally cannot buy a lottery ticket has the final, unoverridable say over their parents regarding a medical procedure?
Well, this raises an important question about legal autonomy, and this is exactly where the youth nuance in the manual comes into play.
Okay, so there is a catch.
Yes, the state grants this incredible balance of power. A minor defined here as someone between 16 and 18 years old can absolutely elect to be a donor and get that heart on their license via first-person legislation. However, because they are still legally minors, their parents or legal adult guardians retain the right to amend or revoke that donation decision if they are available at the time of the medical event.
Okay, so the state trusts the teenager to make the initial medical declaration, treating them like an adult in principle, but keeps the parental safety net firmly in place until the applicant turns 18.
Precisely the mechanic at work.
That makes a lot more sense.
And once that driver turns 18, the parents lose that override capability entirely.
That's a huge shift.
It is. The manual implicitly advises that families need to discuss this beforehand. The worst possible time for a family to have their first philosophical conversation about organ donation, bodily autonomy, and mortality is while standing on the DMV counter, holding up a line of 30 frustrated people.
Definitely.
Families must have this discussion at the dinner table so the teen is prepared.
Have the conversation before you even gather the birth certificates, people. The guide also mentions an interesting detail about age and the physical card itself. Any license issued to an individual under 21 automatically expires on their 21st birthday.
That's right.
You get a few years with this specific youth-designated license, and then the state forces you to renew it as a full, unrestricted adult.
It marks the definitive end of the graduated driver licensing system. By 21, the state basically assumes the behavioral engineering has taken hold, the brain has further developed, and the driver no longer requires the phased restrictions.
So let's bring this entire journey together for you, the listener. We've navigated the whole maze.
You really have.
We started with the absolute necessity of scavenging for original documents with raised seals, utilizing the parent address loophole to satisfy the federal identity chain.
Crucial first steps.
Then we decoded the intentional administrative friction of the permit math, learning that a single 3-point speeding ticket will stop your Class O progress dead in its tracks.
Don't speed, kids.
We've learned that cleaning the interior of your 1973 car is an occupational safety requirement for the examiner. We understand how to avoid the punishing 90-day testing penalty box. And we've grappled with the profound choices of first-person legislation for organ donation.
Getting a youth license in Nebraska isn't just about steering a wheel. It is a masterclass in navigating civic bureaucracy.
It really is.
It is a formal initiation into the social contract. A teenager is proving over years, not just minutes, that they can follow complex instructions, respect community safety protocols, and make mature decisions under pressure.
Knowing these exact mechanics is your ultimate cheat code. Knowing that you cannot bring a hospital birth certificate, or realizing that 3 failed road tests mandates a 90-day wait or driving school is going to save you and your teenager massive amounts of time and frustration.
Information is power here.
Exactly. We want you to understand the system so you can beat the game smoothly. But before we wrap up, there's one final detail hidden in the margins of this manual that really reframes everything we've talked about today.
Oh, this part is fascinating.
We focused entirely on youth drivers running a multi-year gauntlet to prove their capability to get on the road.
But tucked away in the text is a powerful section on the re-examination of driving capability.
Re-examination.
Yeah. Nebraska law dictates that law enforcement officials, physicians, or even concerned citizens can request the DMV to recall any individual for re-examination if they have reason to believe that person cannot drive safely.
Wait, Any individual. So even if you've held your license for 40 years without an incident, a doctor or an officer can flag you.
Any citizen holding a license. The recalled individual receives a letter from the state, and they are legally compelled to appear at a specific date and time to completely retake both the written and the driving tests.
That is intense.
They may also be required to provide a detailed medical history statement from a physician or a vision statement from an optometrist. If they fail to show up or if they fail the tests, their driving privileges are outright canceled.
That is fascinating. We put immense pressure, meticulous testing, and strict probationary periods on teenagers to earn this privilege.
We really make them work for it.
But considering that anyone can be recalled by a doctor or an officer later in life because their physical or cognitive skills have degraded, it leaves you wondering.
It does.
If the skills required to safely operate a vehicle are so perishable, should rigorous retesting just be a standard requirement for everyone every decade?
It's a fair question.
Why is this intense gauntlet only reserved for teenagers? Maybe we should all be forced to clean out our cars, sit next to an examiner, and prove we still know how to play the game.